Slept on Cinema is sponsored by Training Ties, the ultimate shoe tying tool. If you know someone who's struggling with shoe tying for any reason, Training Ties is the perfect solution. Enjoy the film for its witty dialogue and fun performances, but know that there isn't a single good scare. An episode of Murder, She Wrote has more thrills.
Like an attention-seeking teenager, Jennifer's body desperately wants to be cool.
The only perfect aspect of Jennifer's body is its title. No one is going to like this movie for its brain.
Largely humorless and tonally challenged.
Is it about female empowerment or is it a slasher story? Probably both, but it doesn't work as either.
It might be a whole lot easier to like this film if it didn't spend so much time trying to prove how clever it is.
Much to the chagrin of the randy male teens that Jennifer's body is meant to lure into the theaters, they're offered nary a glimpse of Miss Fox's naked glories.
It's very almost. Welcome to this week's episode of Slept on Cinema. I'm your host, Stan Steamer.
And I'm Grove Street.
And this week we are getting into the horror comedy classic, Jennifer's Body. Can't wait to dive into this one.
So excited. This is one of the rare times that I had not seen the movie before we picked it. So very excited for this one.
As always, the criteria for movies we get into on this show are that the movie must be below 50% on Rotten Tomatoes for both critics and audiences. And the podcast is structured such that we do the first half with no spoilers. We talk about things to look for in the film, take a break so you can go watch the movie, and then come back and talk about what we just watched.
And there is a lot to talk about with this movie.
It's amazing.
So good. Rotten premise. When a demon takes possession of her, high school hottie Jennifer turns a hungry eye on guys who never stood a chance with her before. While evil Jennifer satisfies her appetite for human flesh with the school's male population, her nerdy friend, Needy, learns what's happening and vows to put an end to the carnage. Critics, 45%, and somehow the audience is lower at 35%. Baffling.
I'm speechless is what I am. So this movie came out September 18th, 2009. It opened 5th, which is just bananas. You know, I feel like a lot of times we'll have movies that open 2nd or 3rd, and oftentimes it might be sort of discounted because maybe a Disney movie came out first or something like that, which is just, nothing you can do there. But this movie opened 5th, and not only that, the films ahead of it, I'll read them off, the top 4 for this weekend. Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, The Informant, I Can Do Bad All By Myself. Never even heard of that.
Never heard of that.
And Love Happens. Came in 5th to those 4 films.
Oh, that's rough.
I think we'll get into a little bit of maybe why that is, but kind of just a shocker, really, given the quality of this film. It ended up making a little over $31 million. So I think, as often isn't the case with movies that we do, this movie really did flop in terms of financial success, which is really, we'll get into it. It was really surprising. And I think one of the things that's interesting to get into is the writer of the movie. Diablo Cody really came onto the scene in 2007, a couple years before. She had written Juno, as you know, won basically every single award imaginable for that screenplay, including the Academy Award. She also more recently did Jagged Little Pill, the musical, and won a Tony for that. So this is a multi-talented, multi-award-winning author that's behind the script here, and it's a great script. And she has an interesting background, how she came into this. She, I guess, had been a copy typist at an ad agency, just, office job, boring, whatever. And on a whim, signed up for amateur night at a strip club. And she did that and had a great time, just absolutely loved doing it, quit her job, and became a full-time stripper. And alongside this, she starts writing a blog about her experience because she had been doing some writing beforehand, but this is obviously a new set of interesting things to get into. The blog is called Pussy Ranch. It starts getting a following, and people are really into this. She gets a book deal to write a memoir just on the basis of this blog. While she's writing the book, her manager asks for a screenplay sample to try to sell the movie rights to her memoir. And instead of giving him a sample of what the memoir book would be like as a screenplay, she gives him Juno. And the story just takes off from there. Juno becomes this overnight success. It wins everything. And then her career just takes off, right? Like she writes a number of scripts, including this one. And I thought that the writing behind the dialogue and the whole screenplay was phenomenal. It was absolutely excellent. So again, it was with the pedigree like that, it's tough to really understand what went wrong in terms of success, financial and critical success.
Yeah, that's like, I'm one of the people who didn't see it when it came out because I thought it was a different type of movie than it was. So maybe that can go into, I don't know if you'll talk about it, but I think it was her or the director had issues with how the movie was marketed. So I don't want to step on your toes there at all.
No, I think that's definitely right. I think that the marketing here was just all wrong. I mean, we'll probably get into it later, but the marketing was a questionable approach. And I'm sure if they had to go back and do it again, they would do it very differently.
Absolutely.
But that's really it. I mean, I think there's not a whole lot else to know about before diving into the film. It's almost sort of like the less you know, the better, and just buckle up and go along for the ride.
Yeah, I love not knowing anything about it, and it was great not knowing anything about it. And it was such a great surprise because I really thought it would just be like kind of another teen horror movie with pretty bad dialogue and acting and stuff, but none of that was true.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's get to our bolos. Be on the lookout.
Yeah, and this is another one where you could have had a bolo list that was 25 pages long.
Absolutely.
All right, we'll kick it off. This is right off the bat. You see this one. Very much remember this from growing up. Bolo, a tetherball.
Bolo MySpace reference.
Yeah, definitely one of these movies that puts you in a very specific era.
Absolutely.
This one, we always got to shout it out. Bolo, a movie theater.
Bolo band posters.
Band posters are great, and some of the band posters are real bands, and some are not real bands.
Just like some of the music in the soundtrack.
Exactly. I'm going to say Bolo, a sticker toilet.
Bolo spitting gum in a cool way.
It's not easy to do.
Oh.
There's some great actors in this and some great cameos, but I'm going to say, I think the one that I didn't remember, Bolo Chris Pratt.
Yep, we might as well go down the actor list here. Bolo J.K. Simmons with hair.
That's a great one. This one really only comes up at the end, so you're going to have to wait a long time for this one. But Bolo Lance Henriksen. And it's probably not a household name, but he was Bishop in Aliens and also the detective in Terminator. So he does make a appearance, which is a great cameo.
That's a good one. Bolo, depending on your age, you might know him as Dauber from Coach or the voice of Patrick from SpongeBob.
Great one. Great one. I don't have any more actor Bolos, but there is a sort of a director Bolo almost. I'm going to say Bolo, a De Palma style split screen.
Oh, good one.
Bringing us back to Femme Fatale.
Yep. Be on the listen for Akon, the Love You version of the song, which I believe is the better version.
Just phenomenal music all throughout. So I will go Bolo, a Bowflex.
Bolo, biting of the bottom lip.
It says so much. I will say Bolo, flammable party decorations.
Bolo, an actual low shoulder.
I will say Bolo, rotisserie chicken.
One of my favorites. Bolo, putting on clothes while wet. Not recommended.
I'm going to stay on my food train here. And I had a roommate who used to eat these all the time, but Bolo, a fried bologna sandwich.
Oh, that's the type of person. Bolo, burning your tongue.
Oof. Yep. Absolutely. All right. I will say Bolo, a thumbtack in the sandbox.
I've got a few more here. Bolo, front butt.
Yeah. And also just Bolo, the fact that someone's calling front butt, front butt. This is my last one. I'm just going to say Bolo, black slime. It's great.
Let's see. I got a couple more here. Bolo, the Wikipedia. And Bolo, a mosquito on the back of someone's neck.
Solid.
And pretty much any choice would work well for this. But what drink to pair with this movie? I'll go first here, but I was fixated on one drink that they had during the movie. So I'll just say a few layered shots that you have to drink quickly, or else it sort of self combusts.
Yep, I mean that's the answer. I had the same thing here. I think in this movie, and I'll just go with the one that is in the movie, so you can really feel like you're playing along. But the 9/11 tribute shot
Is that a
red,
real
white,
thing?
I found it on the internet. I don't know, so I guess that makes it real. It sounds well. I'll let you at home try it out, and I will reserve judgment. But it's red, white, and blue stripes, grenadine, condensed milk, vodka, and blue curacao.
Oof. It's the perfect shot someone of this age in this place would order.
Yep, and it looks great. They're the kind of shots that you see somebody else ordering, and you just say, "I'll have one of those." Like even if you don't like shots, when you see something like this at a bar, it just looks awesome. So you go for it. It's probably disgusting, but
it's not about
that's beside the point.
How it tastes. It's the presentation and the mood it'll put you in.
Exactly. So that's obviously the answer. No debate there.
Awesome. All right, so go have a few layered shots. Enjoy watching the movie, and we'll see you on the other side.
Enjoy.
You and me are going out tonight. Wear something cute, okay?
Hey, Jennifer. You look really pretty.
Why don't you just come by my place?
Well, this is random.
This isn't really your house, is it?
We can play mommy and daddy.
No way.
Jennifer's evil.
I know.
No, I mean, she's actually evil. Not high school evil.
Chip is looking really cute to me lately. How is he tasting these days?
You are never a good friend. You could have anybody that you want.
Why, Chip? You're killing people.
No, I'm killing boys.
Are you scared?
Thought you only murdered boys.
I go both ways.
I will finish you if I have to.
Okay. You can barely finish gym class.
Slept On Cinema is brought to you by Training Ties, the ultimate shoe tying tool. If you know anyone who's struggling with shoe tying, Training Ties is the perfect solution. Or if you know anyone who just doesn't like tying their shoes, Training Ties keeps shoes tied all day long. Say no to Velcro and yes to independence with Training Ties.
Welcome back.
Welcome back. That was a ton of fun.
It was great. I can't imagine somebody watching that and not having a good time, not enjoying it.
Yeah, me neither. The only explanation would be maybe the wrong people are seeing it. Maybe due to some marketing stuff. But that movie, it's one of these movies that it doesn't make any sense to me that the audience would be lower, 10% lower at that than the critics. I understand plenty of reasons why the critics wouldn't like it, of course, but the audience if you just let yourself enjoy the movie, you're going to have a great time.
Absolutely.
All right, want to get to the draft?
Let's do it.
Awesome. We also have, for the second time, our intern Kai, because this was his movie choice. And I'm so glad it was, because this is a rare movie that I hadn't seen before. And I'm so happy he picked it, because now it's one of my favorites.
Excellent choice. Absolutely perfect choice.
And as always, our guest gets to go first. So Kai, you're up for first pick.
God, I love this movie so much, and I cannot say that enough. My first pick is probably going to be the hook hand of the science teacher.
Oh, yes.
I love that how it just comes out of nowhere. Like, he's talking, he's very serious, and then it's just hook hand.
Yep. I love that pick. I also, because when that first came up, I was watching this, and it was sort of like, I wonder who thought of that, because that probably wasn't originally written into the notes of the script, right? It was probably just like a prop guy had this hook and was like, how do we work this hook into this movie? I got this awesome hook. And it was like, all right, here we go. Teacher hand.
And it also was like sort of a lampshade for him. You don't have to go into a backstory about, the horrors he's been through. And when he talks about like, I've been through some stuff, you don't have to explore it. He has a hook for a hand. So you assume he's seen some stuff. It was great seeing, was that J.K. Simmons?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was funny seeing him with the hair.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this movie, has an amazing cast. There's so many people like that. We're like, wow, this is a legitimate, serious, well-respected actor. And he's in this movie, which, for whatever reason, doesn't get the respect it deserves. But the cast is amazing.
I think there's some connections from Juno that reappear in this movie.
Right, for sure.
That's a great pick.
All right. I am going to take with my first pick Amanda Seyfried. I feel like usually when there's a title character in a movie, that character is the main character. But really, after watching this is a needy movie. This is much more of a needy movie than a Jen movie. And I don't know if because I first got to know her, as most people did, through Mean Girls, and she just plays this, the dumbest person alive, basically, in that movie. I sort of just mentally wrote her off, probably because she did such a good job in that character that I just thought that was what she was like. And I didn't really put much thought into it, but she was amazing in this movie. She just absolutely, it's basically her movie. She's basically the star, and she carries the whole thing flawlessly. Like, she was absolutely amazing. It made me rethink everything about her. It made me want to go back and just go through all the movies she's done and rewatch them, or probably watch a lot of them for the first time. She was that good.
I think it's a testament to her great acting ability that she, like, I always thought of her as that, like, dumb blonde that can sense the weather with her body, whatever, from Mean Girls, and she pulls it off so well. But it seems like that's nothing like her at all, because most of the other stuff she's in, she's super intelligent, quirky. I just watch, on Hulu, I think it's on Hulu, her show, The Dropout. She's phenomenal in that. Mm-hmm. And it's just like, she is just an incredible actress. And you're right, it makes me want to go back and watch a bunch of her other movies.
Yeah, I don't think ever has there been a movie that I've seen that made me rethink an actor or actress as much as this one did. She blew me away.
Yeah.
A lot of movies have characters say that they're like a completely different person at the end. But her performance, like, and the way, even just the way she carries herself and the way she sits, it really is like, this is a completely different person.
Yeah.
She's very good with that, with the body language stuff. And that's also from The Dropout, too. I remember seeing, like, documentary of her impersonating the actual person from that the story's based off of. And she's able to copy the mannerisms, like you said, how she sits, how she talks, little head tilts, the voice. She's just an incredible actress. That's a great pick. I'm glad my pick is still available. I'm taking the music of this movie.
Ooh, that was my next pick. A great pick.
It's all music that I hated when I was growing up, because there was that sort of like whatever emo culture or whatever, and a lot of my friends enjoyed it. But this really took you to a certain place, and the music was incredible. I love the car ride with Colin, and he's what is that song? It's I Can See Clearly Now by the Screeching Weasels, the other version that he's singing in the car. Even through the trees by the end, I'm like, all right, I get it. I know it's an awful, cheesy song, but song after song that comes on there, it's incredible. So I got to take the music.
It was great how they sort of wove in well-known songs as well as songs that were really unknown. I think probably a lot of bands and music probably got their sort of big break through this movie, because they did have so many songs that were unknown, but that fit so perfectly. Like, I definitely found myself looking up what some of these songs were. But yeah, no, I thought they nailed the music perfectly. It was so good. And that song. I mean, I love, like we've talked about this before, but I love in movies when they weave one song throughout the entire film. And here it was so woven through the film, it became a storyline in itself and kind of a joke.
Yeah. How with Needy, she's like, are you kidding me again? The whole like audience is like, really again? Like, she's like speaking on our behalf.
Oh yeah. And you could totally see how this would happen in one of these situations. Like this how it played out here would be exactly what happened in real life, right? There would be some band that was loosely associated with some tragedy that uses it. Their song becomes huge. They become the anthem, and some people are into it. And then a bunch of people are just like, wait a minute, 3% profits going to the victims. What about the other 97%? That kind of thing. I thought that whole element of the song was one of my favorite parts of the entire film.
Yeah, absolutely. And how everyone catches a tragedy boner over incidents like that.
Oh yeah.
My second pick. Man, this is so tough. I'll see if I can wait for my other one, see if they squeak through. I'll say the ending credits. I love it's almost like The Hangover when you get to look at the pictures at the end and it tells the story. So like you were just glued to the screen, seeing them famous. Then it kind of just spirals a little out of control. They start doing drugs and everything else, and then they just get murdered in the bathroom. And I thought that whole series of pictures and quick videos was just an amazing ending to the movie.
I love that as well. And this, I think, is the first time where I have my draft board here. I got my first pick, so can't complain. But you took number 2 and number 3 in quick succession here. But I love those final credits. I love when they have great final credits. It was probably kind of ahead of its time, because I think in the streaming world now, you watch a movie, the credits come on, the little box pops up, and it, skip to the next movie or skip to the next thing, and the credits don't even really. Most people probably don't even see them. So I think people now are trying to figure out ways to weave more content into the credits so that people do actually spend time looking at the credits. And this was one of the first movies that I can remember that really did it well like this. The Hangover was another one, but it was almost like an epilogue that was just in the credits, and it was great.
Yeah, the Marvel movies all do this now with everyone staying to the end of a movie to watch all the credits, just for one little glimpse of what might be coming up in the future of the Marvel universe.
Oof! Well, you cleaned my board out here, but this movie, I think we were talking about before we jumped on that I could probably go 12 rounds on this. There's so many things that I just love about this movie. I am going to take just the dialogue in general. I know you mentioned this before a little bit, but I thought all the character dialogue, all the lines that they used, I was just glued. I was glued to the screen because of it. It felt very, very much of a time in a way that was perfect for this movie. But it also had its own, like, it was witty, it was clever, it was unique. There were turns of phrases that were, I'm sure, created as part of this script. But it also all felt like real. It didn't feel like it was trying too hard to be overly clever, like I think happens sometimes when you do end up with dialogue like this. But I think it threaded that needle perfectly.
Yeah, it's like dumbed down cleverness, and it works because it comes out of Megan Fox, and it just seems like something she would say as the mean cool girl who isn't really that smart.
Yep.
I think we're back to Kai.
Wow, back to me. Okay. I'm probably gonna say the emo funeral mourners. I just, like, every time I see that scene, I'm just like, I don't think that I will have really lived a good life if I don't have that. Like, I need someone saying he's flying around in the firmament at my death. Like,
Might have to just preemptively hire someone a lot younger than you when you get older to see that person.
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready to put it, like, if I don't get around to it, it'll be in my will. Like, you have to hire someone. Like, if you don't hire someone, don't bother having a funeral. I need a wailing full scene hair, everything, the whole shebang. I need everyone to be completely distracted by the glistening, ringing sounds of chains that are attached to jeans. Like, I need that. And the guy's mom just losing it at the funeral.
Oh, the mom was a great counterpoint to all that. Just so straight laced, and just she was having none of it.
Like, I think that just made it all the more perfect. And I'm like, yeah, that's great. I think that is exactly how that guy would have wanted his funeral to go.
That's a great pick. Yeah, that scene, like so many scenes, that scene was great. All right, sleep around.
Okay. I have so many.
We might have to do like a little quick honorable mention section at the end.
Yep.
Get them in.
One of my favorite things about this movie is the indoor sludge pool, like the swimming pool that is just like filled with sludge and has those really, really intense overgrown vines, and the aesthetic of that, and it has so much potential in that room. There are so many vibes in there. Like the Jennifer brought Chip into there, and he was like, yeah, this is cool, not weird. And then they have that fight in there, and it's the perfect scene for both of those somehow. And it does feel like, oh yeah, this is like normal for teens to do. And also, this is where a demon would eat me.
Yeah,
like, yeah,
a demon would puke on both of us.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And the fact that, like, that puke doesn't even change the sludge. Like, it was already that gross.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, this is just I can't believe what's happened to my draft board here. That was literally what I had next up on my list. It's just it's like you guys are sitting over my shoulder here. But I completely agree. I thought that scene was my favorite visual in the entire movie. I thought it had almost like a fairy tale feeling to it. The way it had all the greenery and overgrowth everywhere, but it was sort of alive. Like the scene itself was almost alive. Like the sludge, the plants, That whole scene was just
Even before they got there, when Needy was like walking through the grass to get to it, you could tell it was just some crazy scenario they were going to be walking into, a crazy building.
It really feels like the Enchanted Forest meets Team Rom-Com meets the horrible landfill where murders happen.
and a great ending too, where Jennifer just pops right out the window. It's just like whoop, and she's gone.
And I still like, even looking at the exterior, like the fact that Jennifer and Chip just walked in through the door and Needy like climbs the side scales, comes in from like the second story. And I'm like, how did she do that? It was like the exterior didn't look like that was possible at all, but somehow she's climbing up vines and climbing back down vines, and it was way too wild, but I love it.
Yeah, whoever designed that scene, I hope they made all the money. They're incredibly talented.
Great pick.
Wow, great pick. Like I said, that was next off of my board here, but fortunately, there's a lot to love. I'm going to go for my sleeper pick here. The first time Jennifer shows up and is just all bloody and she's gone through hell, I thought that first visual of just her just being absolutely destroyed was just amazing. Obviously, it's a big turn for the movie right there. And you just see her standing there just absolutely wrecked. And you're like, all right, this is where we're about to go. And I love that.
And I kind of wish we had a couple more scenes of that Jennifer, too, because she was terrifying in that scene. And you didn't quite know what was going to happen next. She grabbed Needy by the neck, and it seemed like she was going to bite her. And then she had, the moment that happens sometimes after going to a tavern. You attack a roast chicken from Boston Market in your fridge, and then you get sick after. Very relatable.
We've all been there. No judgments.
Nope. Yeah, it was an incredible scene. I think I liked how Jennifer told Colin to pitch her on why they should go out. And he's like, well, we've been having a lot of fun in class lately, and if you wanted to watch a movie, and then, of course, this Rocky Horror Picture Show, and she hates boxing movies, but the idea of having, like, okay, it's like they're on Shark Tank, just pitch me. And once you say that, it's pretty unlikely that you're ever going to have a chance. Just walk away right there.
I mean, he does get the date,
but
for
not
better or worse.
He gets it. Yeah, he does get the. Yeah, right.
I know he kind of gets it because Needy thinks he's cool, and Jennifer
Needy
likes whatever Needy wants in a way.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, that was kind of one of the great little plot elements too. Of just it's a character trait that I'm sure you all know people like this that sort of can't really make up their own minds to themselves, so they just sort of glom on to somebody else's taste, and it's repulsive usually.
My wife and I get pissed at that with parking in open spaces. You go to there's a big parking lot, there's an area of cars, and you intentionally go away from other people a good amount away, and then for some reason someone thinks that you know something that they don't, and they just park right next to you. Makes no sense. Have your own opinion.
I feel like that story is the most Grove Street story I've ever heard. That gripe was just so incredibly fitting.
People get too close. All right, any honorable mentions that we didn't say here? Or that we should say?
Well, pretty much everything I had, all 18 things I had listed here got picked by you guys. So
I'll throw in a quick one. Calling someone and starting off talking about yourself. So just is so identifiable what type of person that is. So when Jennifer called Needy, she's busy doing homework or grieving. And she's like, I feel scrumptious. And you're just like, all right, I have to be on the phone for this. Do you need me for this? Are you just going to talk about yourself here?
I've got I think 2 honorable mentions.
Let's go for it.
The casually psychic protagonist, just the Needy is low-key psychic from the very start. And it's not like it's a huge plot element. It's not like it's touched upon. It's faulty. It's not consistent. It's not every time, but it's just for plot convenience, whenever she needs it, and there's absolutely no way she would know this, she gets to be psychic in those moments.
I love that you brought that up, because I think that's an element that a lot of people had a problem with, that sort of thing, how it's is this a real movie? Is there supernatural elements, whatever? And people pick apart something like that because it only really comes up twice when Jennifer arrives and she's like, I think Jennifer's here. And then when she's having sex with a boyfriend too, she felt it there. But
it also comes up when Jennifer's with Chip, because when she's kissing Chip, he touches her lip.
That's right. Yep, that's true. But the ability to just suspend disbelief is what makes a part of like enjoying a movie so important.
I mean, I had a strange theory that sort of tied this up for me in a nice, neat way. It's a bit of a stretch, so for maybe some people, but I thought that in my mind this made sense. Is that back when they were in the sandbox when they were kids, and Needy, I think it was Needy who punctured her finger on the tack in the sandbox, and Jennifer like licks it off. I thought that there was some sort of like maybe saliva transfer there from Jennifer to Needy. And then there was something about the spell that later on happens to Jennifer when everything goes awry. And that somehow that spell worked backwards through time. And that somehow left some sort of previous imprint in Needy that caused her to be somewhat psychic.
I think that makes perfect sense. And maybe a part of why she was able to absorb from some of her powers, because you don't always get to absorb the demon's powers that bites you, but she did with Jennifer.
So that makes total sense to me. I don't see any plot hole.
Pretty obvious now, I guess.
I feel like with a man-eating demon on the loose, like someone being slightly psychic is not even that big of a deal. Like there's a lot more going on in the world.
Absolutely. You had one more, you said?
Yeah. Whenever I talk about this movie, I mention Schrodinger's ritual sacrifice because it simultaneously worked and didn't work. And like you said earlier, like the movie, it's a movie about Needy. It's Needy's movie. It's not a Jen movie. It's not a movie about the band. It's not about how they ritually sacrificed her. And it takes forever to actually like reveal that.
Mm-hmm.
Like the movie's not about that. But like for the band, like for them, they're like, oh yeah, we did a virgin sacrifice. It worked. It was great. And it's not even until the credits scene that it actually comes back to bite them. So like I would say, like yeah, it's when your ritual sacrifice simultaneously was successful and wasn't successful, and you don't know until it's too late.
That's a great point. A great piece of advice too. Really be very careful with your ritual sacrifices because you don't always know when it goes wrong, and it could come back to bite you in a major way.
And it feels like it often does, even if it goes right. Those ritualistic sacrifices and occult traditions just end up coming back to bite you for sure.
I had one more I did want to get in here just because we have to always talk about this whenever it pops up. There was a great lampshading moment. Or there were a number, but one in particular here was after Needy goes to do research on this sacrifice, right? And she goes to the occult section in the library, and then she's talking to Chip, and she's like, There's an occult section in the library? And it's like, yeah, it's really small. It's like, oh, okay. Yeah, I get that now.
One shelf, I get it. Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great lampshade. All right, that was awesome. Thanks for coming on, Kai, and thanks even more for recommending this movie.
Thank you for having me, and again, thank you for doing one of my favorite movies that I still cannot believe is so poorly rated Rotten Tomatoes. I've loved this movie for years.
Yeah, I mean it's an all timer. It's great.
Want to get to superlatives?
Yeah, what do we have this week?
The superlative for this one is favorite teen speak line.
Nice. Well, I think my favorite is probably many people's favorite here, but I'm going with Salty. I love Salty. I love how Jennifer is really forcing it. It of course evokes Mean Girls trying to force something because she's using it all the time. She even has to explain what it means. People are like, what is this? But it's in my mind, it's the perfect phrase that somebody in Jennifer's situation, popular, attractive, trying to be a trendsetter. It's the exact type of phrase that that type of person would use. It's just right.
And she can get away with it too, because that's what hot people in high school can do. They can just say dumb stuff that everyone knows dumb, but when it comes from them, you're like, maybe it's kind of cool. She's cool. Maybe I'll start trying to use this around and see what happens. It's definitely her fetch or her razor if you're a fan of the show.
Totally. I mean, yeah, I think if she hadn't gone around and, killed everybody in the high school, that totally would have caught on.
Absolutely. I liked when she was at the bar trying to get a drink and she said, let's play a game of Hello Titty.
There's a lot of great tit references as well.
Some other ones we almost said that, I don't know, probably don't age well. But even like a moveon.org. It's just like,
Mm-hmm.
you don't see a teenager saying that, but it's hilarious. Calling people JV. It's pretty good too.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I think there was a good one. There was JV, and then there was also like total varsity moves for describing sexual prowess of another high schooler.
For people who've done the sex before.
Right, exactly. There was one that was, this is in kind of the opposite of Salty, in that Salty was made up, but the referring to somebody as a poser really brought me back to mainly middle school. I feel like in middle school that was like the absolute worst thing you could be, was a poser.
Right. Yeah. You're trying to get into that cool band right now, the hot band right now, too hard. Like you're trying to like it more than you actually do.
Yep.
You definitely don't want to be called a poser, because then your whole being is at stake when someone calls you.
There's absolutely nothing worse in the entire world than being a poser when you're in middle school, I think.
I had to Google shutties. Shutties apparently is shut up. I still don't know what chesters are.
I don't know what chesters are either.
Yeah, my Google search didn't work on that one. I know it's not good.
I did like the. I guess this isn't teen speak. It's like young child speak. But the insult, "You're a penis cheese." And this one I had to rewind a number of times, and then I just resorted to the Grobe tactic of putting the subtitles on, because I was like, "There's no way she's saying penis cheese." And
she is.
She was.
And I'm sure for that, like, she's probably crushing every day at school or at recess, just calling a random person penis cheese.
Yep.
So good. All right, let's go to One Change to Be a Blockbuster, which a lot of times our movies are blockbusters, but this time could actually use a change or two to become one.
Yeah, and I think we've alluded to this a bunch throughout this podcast, but for me, it's an obvious one. It has nothing to do with the movie itself. The movie itself was great. It's the marketing. This movie was marketed as it seemed like it was marketed to appeal to teenage boys. Like, you go into it based on the marketing, you would have thought there was nudity and sex and all this sort of tantalizing stuff, which there really wasn't. And not only is that not at all what the movie's about, but that's really not the target audience for this film. I mean, this film was a great horror comedy. That's what it was. It was a great horror comedy with two female leads. I had held off watching this for a while because I thought in my mind, like, that was what I recalled this movie being because of the marketing. This was some, I don't know, movie. It was like a skin movie or something.
Yeah. I didn't see this movie for all this time because I thought it was just that. Like, I thought it was just like a cheesy skin movie that would be like on Cinemax or something with low budget, or it's up there next to Piranha, or even like Barbed Wire for teenage boys or something. It doesn't
exactly.
Like, you didn't think it was going to have any substance about it, but then you start watching it, like, oh, this is a completely different movie. But I understand people who go to the theaters based on the trailer that they made would be completely disappointed because these are a bunch of 15-year-old boys sitting in the audience.
Yeah, the marketing of it made no sense. And I guess the only change that I would consider making in the movie is there is that kiss between Needy and Jen. And I think they played that up so much in the marketing.
Yep.
And it really has almost nothing to do with the plot. I think you could easily take that out. It kind of feels out of place even when it's on screen. You're like, this doesn't really fit with what's going on here. And they move on from it immediately as if it really didn't happen. So it adds nothing to the movie. So you take that out, then they can't market off of that, and maybe that solves your problem.
Yeah, they'd almost seemed like a demonic, like Cruel Intentions too, like the way they were marketing this movie. But it's absolutely not. This movie isn't really about that at all. My only change would be, besides obviously the marketing is just, you're right, the movie's basically perfect in a lot of ways, but the marketing could change. But I think maybe if it is going to be a horror movie, maybe a few more scares. I think I brought this up before. I really enjoyed that scene when Jennifer got to Needy's house after she supposedly was killed, and she was like super demonic and had the Boston Market and was puking and almost killed Needy. And that was like a really scary version of her. But in the other one, in the rest of the sort of like the kill scenes, it was kind of playful, or you just knew like, all right, she's going to kill this random guy. There's no suspense here. I'm not really attached to the character. There was nothing really that unnerving, except for that scene. So if we could have got like that scary Jennifer a couple times, I would have liked that a little bit more.
Yeah, I'm sure they could have woven that in a little bit more. It's always it's one of the toughest genres, I think, to crack and do well with the horror comedy piece, because they are sort of at odds in many ways. So it's a tough thing to do, but I think they did a great job all in all.
When you do nail a horror comedy, it's incredibly rewatchable.
For sure.
There's so many
For
good
sure.
ones out there, but if it's not on the mark, then yeah, it just seems like some bad sci-fi movie.
Yep.
Spin-off idea. You got any?
So, I feel like this is probably just kind of boring, but I just want to see what happens next. It's that simple. There's not a whole lot. Just give me the sequel. I went into how fantastic Amanda Seyfried was here. So just pick up right where that one ends. Be Halloween 2. Pick up exactly when the first one ends and just show me what happens.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. I thought maybe she could turn into like an occult member hunter, and like people who are doing this to girls out there. She hunts them down, like, and then you can go after like these powerful men in all walks of life who became, powerful politicians or famous actors or billionaires in the stock market, and they all did this ritual to someone, mostly probably virgins and not Jennifer. And they got away with it, but she hunts them down and uses her powers to take them down for what they've done.
Absolutely. And you weave in that ESP element that we talked about before. There's a lot you can work with.
Maybe she develops that skill. It's not just between her and Jennifer. She has that in her. Right.
And it's a great character. So I could have seen a lot more of that character. I think they easily could have turned this into a whole, a series, a trilogy, whatever it is, just because that character is amazing.
Yeah, that really good. Let's see, anything in our notes that we missed and forgot to talk about?
I guess I do love in sort of any teen movies where part of it culminates at a dance. I think that's always a great feature. Love that.
I liked during the sex scene with Chip, and she's having all these horrific images going through her head, and she's like sort of sounds in pain, and he gives that line like excitedly, am I too big? Like he wants that to be the problem. It was just hilarious. He did that line so perfectly. And I liked when she got stabbed in the heart at the end, and she's like, "My tit," because she's so. She's like, "No, that was your heart.
Your heart."
I thought the devil's kettle or the that hole that got at the end of the waterfall, the hole.
So cool.
So cool.
So cool.
I would visit thing all the time. I know eventually
I would be there. I would have thrown everything into there.
Yeah, it was like that. What was that the first Thor where they were throwing stuff through like the warp and it would come out somewhere else in the building?
Yep.
Just play with that all day.
Absolutely.
She gave so many she being Jennifer, so many just great digs at everyone. Everything. It seemed like every time she was speaking to someone, she would make fun of them.
Her lines were amazing. I mean, we've been over it a lot here, but just I feel like it needs to be said again that the dialogue was great. The writing in this was just fantastic.
Yep. What do we got? Nice hardware, Ace. My dick is bigger than his. That was a good one. And I'm going to eat your soul and shit it out. That's Nikki.
I like the reference to like when Jesus invented the calendar.
Oh yeah, that was so good. All right, that was a lot of fun.
I think next episode we have up Relic. And this is a movie I've sort of been hovering around a lot. I almost watched it a number of times in the last several months, and now's the time to commit. I don't think I've seen this since I probably first rented it from Blockbuster several decades ago, and I think I've only seen it that one time. So excited to get back into it. I remember having a great time watching it before. Any movie that takes place in a museum is going to be great, so can't wait to get into it.
Yeah, I'm excited. I had the same experience. I saw this, I think, in a VHS or maybe early DVD. I'm not quite sure, but it's been a long time.
Yeah, it was definitely VHS for sure.
Okay, for sure. Yeah, I'm excited to see this again. All right, that was a lot of fun. Later.
Yeah, later.